Hey guys, welcome back to my Practically Imperfect Life. If you are joining me for the first time, welcome to my channel. My name's Abby. I'm a homeschooling mom of two. I have a junior and I have a sophomore. And on these quarterly recaps, I give you the wins and losses from the previous quarter. What things went well, what things did not, what were some of our struggles and some of our successes, and then how we're going to be approaching the upcoming quarter. Quarter three was one where I really had hoped we would be consistent in our schedule, in hitting different subjects, in just kind of maintaining a steady pace through all of our curriculum. We did for the back half. The first half was definitely a interesting start to the quarter. We are part of a homeschool basketball league, so there were scheduled tournaments. Some of them were multi-day, they were out of town, but we knew about them and we planned around them. We also had some planned college visits. We did 4 more college visits, my oldest and I did. And these were the best of the ones that we have done so far. All 4 schools are ones she's very, very interested in applying to. She's also interested in pursuing being recruited to their golf teams. But most importantly, her confidence level at these visits was so much higher than they were when we did our initial college tours. We had done some college tours way back in the fall, and at that time she didn't know what to ask. She didn't know really what to expect or how to talk about courses and degree fields and schedules with the professors, which is understandable. She just didn't know what she wanted to know yet. But by the time we got to these last couple, she was completely taking the reins during the visit. She was up there walking with the tour guide, asking pertinent questions. She knew what things about the college experience were going to be important to her, and so she asked about those specific things. We had wonderful sit-down meetings with department heads and with professors where I did very little talking, and she did all of the asking of questions, talking about what it is she's interested in, why she wants to pursue the degree she wants to. And we had just a wonderful time. It was great. And if you are going to do college tours with your teens, I would really recommend that. Don't do just one. Do 2, 3, maybe more. That will just give them a chance to get comfortable with, well, how a college tour works and what types of things are going to be discussed. And they can start to get a feel for what types of questions they want to have answered. So that was the first part of our quarter. And then we finally got to a point where we were moving through things pretty consistently. Now, I would like to go through just some of the different subject areas and how they each went. I do want to let you know, though, I have a series of videos that will be coming out throughout the month of April and probably into the very first week of May, roughly one a week, where I'm going to give you a review, like a deep review of our different subject areas and the specific curriculum we used. So it'll be a video where I'll talk just about our history and social studies courses, getting very in-depth on what it is that we liked, didn't like about them, and overall thoughts. We'll do it for math, we'll do it for English literature, we'll do one for science, and then one on all of our elective courses. So I do have those planned and coming out throughout the month of April and into early May. And once I've released all of those review videos, then I will have our curriculum choice videos for the upcoming school year being released. So if you'd like to find out more about specific curriculum, specific subjects, definitely watch for those videos. So I will give you, though, a general idea on how everything was going for the quarter 3 and upcoming changes. So math, let's start with math because I talked a lot about the pre-calculus course that my daughter is in when I did the quarter 2 video. Because pre-calculus has just been a struggle for her. And she's always been a super strong math student. But something about this course has just really been difficult for her. I don't know if it was the fact that it was the first year she switched to an all-online math course. She had done Saxon math all the way through middle school and through the first part of high school. Or it could be just the fact that pre-calculus and trig is just something that is not her strong point, but it has been a struggle. However, we got a little bit of a reprieve this quarter. I reached out to Shorman and explained my frustration with not being able to help her much. not to be able to give her guidance when she's really stuck on a problem, because that's how we had approached the Saxon math before. If she got to a point in a problem where she just didn't know what to do, I would look at where she was at and provide just a little bit of guidance. And usually once I could give that, she could continue on the problem the rest of the way herself. And for me and for her, that's how she learned. It wasn't, well, struggle through it and then get it wrong and then, then come back and figure it all out. It was, let's figure it out as we're going through the practice problems. So by the time you take the exam, you're really comfortable with how to do it. And that is not how this is set up. It's set up to where, if she's struggling on a problem, she's supposed to go back and watch the lesson, or she's supposed to look at the example, and then she's supposed to see if she can get it right. And then if it's wrong, then review, and then go back again. And I don't think that's quite, I don't know if that's just quite her learning style, that way of addressing it. So I did reach out to Sherman. They did give me a PDF of the solution manual for the whole course. And that has been a total game changer, because when she's stuck on a problem, I can look at that. I can make sure I understand how the problem is supposed to be solved, because pre-calculus is not something I've looked at in many, many years. So, and I'm able to better guide her with that. So that has been so helpful. My son is going to have a much easier time with this course because, by this point, I know now how to do those different things and how to do those different functions. But I feel bad for my daughter because she's struggled with it, and I've not been as able to help as what I have been in the past. So thankfully, though, she is almost done with that course. And that is the fact that the course only has like 100 lessons and then 4 quarterly exams. So at the point where I'm filming this, she has less than 10 days left of pre-calculus, and then she is done for the year. And she is just ready. She wants to just barrel through it and get done and then be done with it. And that will easily shave an hour to an hour and a half off each of her homeschool days, just taking out the math component. And she is very ready to be done with it. No real updates with my son and his math, but that's the update on hers. Moving on to English. At the start of this quarter, I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to work in a second novel study for my son this year. He is using the BJU 10th grade literature program. It has 8 units to it, and at the start of the school year, I had kind of arranged their lesson plans to try to give us a 4-week block to do a novel study kind of mid-year and then another one near the end of the year. He did the Fellowship of the Ring earlier, and we have gotten back into doing the units in the BJU textbook, but we're moving through them at such a steady pace, but not a fast pace, that I really don't think we're going to be able to get in that second novel study this year. While I'm disappointed about that, and while I could cut some of the units from the textbook and switch over to a novel study, I just don't think I'm going to. He's moving through it decently. The stories in the current units are ones that have been interesting to him. Are we going to use the same thing next year? I don't know. We've talked a little bit about what's working and what's not working with that. But overall, we're just not going to do another novel study. That's probably the biggest, letdown. It's just the fact that we aren't going to get through it quick enough to be able to, accommodate that. Now, on the flip side, my daughter is doing her excellence in literature. I had really thought that this last module she does 4-week modules. I didn't think we were going to be able to work in the honors book, but she has really moved through these novels quickly. The first half of the year was a lot of novels with like Old English. She read Canterbury Tales, she read Beowulf, and things like that. And it took her a long time to get through those books. But we are moving into things that are, I don't want to say, they're not easy reads, but they're more readable. She read 2 novels by Jane Austen for one of the units. She just finished the one with 2 books by Dickens. So she read Great Expectations and Oliver Twist. And then the last 2 modules she's going to do... That up. The last 2 modules she's going to do have these 4 books on there. So there's 2 main books and then there are 2 honors books. So Wuthering Heights is the main book for the next module. And then The Tenant of Windfell Hall is the honors book. And then the very last one, she's going to do To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. And then the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis is the honors book, which is actually 3 books. I don't know if we're going to do the honors book for that one, or if I might just have her read one of the 3 that are included in this. I've never read these. So if you've read them, if you know if it's any good, let me know. Let me know if it'd be worthwhile for me to have her read that. Now, the other thing that she is doing is writing a research paper. The way that the course is laid out, early on in the second semester, it had her start to choose a topic and start working on a semester-long research paper. And each week I've been giving her reminders, hey, you need to be working on like this portion of your research paper. We have been utilizing the how to write a research paper outline that I made. I did a video on this on how I taught my kids to write a research paper, and I have a free document that you can request. It helps guide students through choosing a topic and different subtopics, gathering their notes, creating note outlines, writing their conclusion, writing their introduction, and putting it all together, including doing the citing of sources. So if you'd be interested in that, I will link the video down below. It's how to write a research paper, and then you are welcome to message me in order to get a copy of that document. So I gave those to her, and I haven't been too hands-on with her as she's going through it. I've just been giving her the reminders. She has written enough papers now that she knows what she needs to be doing and when, and she will turn that in as kind of her big end of semester project for her English course. So English is going to take her all the way up to the very end of our school year, simply because we still have, you know, all of those books to get through, as well as that research paper. The components that they'll be done with early, though, we are doing Worldly Wise for vocabulary. Each of my kids are, and there's only 20 lessons in those. They have different exercises for each lesson, so it's like exercise A, B, C, D, E, and then they take a test on it. So usually every 6 days we're through a unit and we're moving on to the next one, and there's a few like review units thrown in there. So they will get done with vocabulary several weeks before the end of our homeschool year, and that's fine. As we finish up subjects, we are just done with those subjects. I don't add on more things. I let them be done. My son, same thing with grammar. Grammar is only, the Fix-It grammar, I think it's 33 weeks of lessons, and so once he hits that, he'll be done for the remainder of the year. Now with our science courses, there haven't been any real big exciting developments or anything that we didn't really like. Everything's just been kind of moving along pretty steady. My daughter is doing Apology of Physics, and that course has been really easy for her. She has just done excellent in that. She's had very few questions on understanding anything. She's gotten the math component of it down just pack. Like every test is like perfect. She just does so well with that. The experiments are kind of like, I'm going to say like so-so. They haven't been like overwhelmingly exciting, but they have demonstrated the principles. Chemistry for my son, he's definitely needed a little more one-on-one tutoring from me in that subject, which I'm fine with. I was a chemistry major, so I love teaching chemistry. It's just understanding kind of the balancing of reactions that's been difficult for him. You know, when you are given a certain amount of something and then you are given the reaction, you have to figure out how much product do you expect and what is your actual yield versus your experimental yield. Just understanding how to set up those problems consistently and what it is that a reaction equation is actually telling you. And so I've spent a lot of extra time with him this quarter, really making sure he understands that. Now, both of them are also doing an optional science course. They're doing Chemistry in the Kitchen from Guest Hollow. Now, that is one that we're kind of treating as an elective. We're calling it Food Science, but it's been great because it is reinforcing and helping to better explain some of the chemistry concepts that my son is learning in his chemistry course. And my daughter, who had previously taken chemistry, is getting a great review on all of those things. That has been fun as always. Now, we did take a 4-week, almost a 5-week break off of it. My daughter took a 5-week break off of it. My son had gotten a little behind due to work and illness and stuff. So we gave him those couple of weeks to get caught up to where his sister had been at. And I gave her those additional weeks to spend that time during the school day focusing on her SAT prep. I did a video talking about the SAT prep program we chose. She has been putting a lot of time into that lately because her test date is scheduled. So she's very aware that it's coming up. She's been doing the full-length practice tests, and that has been really helpful for her. I think she's going to be very well prepared for the SAT test date. But when my son finally caught up to where his sister had been at, they have been continuing on together for about the last 4 weeks, doing the same work each week and making the cooking projects together and things like that. And we still have several more weeks to go. Now we are going to work beyond the 180 school days in order to try to complete this curriculum. And we're going to do that with some other subjects too. But I would rather them get a chance to really experience all that this course is offering than give us an artificial end date. Like say, oh, well, we hit 180 days, and even though we haven't covered everything, we're just going to be done. Now we'll probably spend about 2 extra weeks in order to get through it all the way. Now, there's some really interesting things that we've been getting into. They've been reading about a lot of the chemical additives in food and how food is altered. And I did a video talking about an experiment we did where we made like a from scratch version of a recipe. We did like a semi-processed version. We did a fully processed version. We talked about like what was in those foods, getting an understanding for what the different ingredients were, what their purpose was, whether they were good for you, bad for you. And that really was just one of those rabbit holes that you can kind of come across in homeschooling, where you find a topic and you're really interested in it, and so you just deep dive in it. And it's nice that we can do that. We can deep dive into those topics. I have a good size stack of books that we will be getting into for the last quarter. They aren't going to be reading these books front to back. There's different reading assignments from different ones. But some interesting topics like this one, The Disappearing Spoon, Other True Tales of Madness, Love, and the History of the World from the Periodic Table of Elements. We have one called First Bite, and it says, this is a manifesto for better ways of eating for adults and kids, drawing on research from food psychologists, neuroscientists, and nutritionists to reveal that our food habits are shaped by a whole host of factors. So, interesting. And then there are some books discussing diseases and microbes. And as a nurse, I think this is a great one. This is called Missing Microbes, How the Overuse of Antibiotics is Fueling Our Modern Plagues. And then our main book, so with these guest hallowed courses, they have what they call like the spine book, the book that is where the bulk of the information of the course is coming from. And we have used 2 different books so far. One was What Einstein Told His Cook, and then What Einstein Kept Under His Hat. But the very end of this curriculum, we kind of switch gears, and Carbon Chemistry is going to be kind of like the spine book, or the book that we'll be using a lot. Now this, out of all of the books for this course, is the one that looks the most like a traditional chemistry book. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, flashbacks to college chemistry courses. But this is learning about organic chemistry, and they will be diving into that. So we also will be switching over to a different reference book. They've been going through one that focused on individual elements, and then we have this reference book called Molecules, the Elements, and the Architecture of Everything. So as opposed to giving a deep dive on individual elements, it's going to be talking about specific molecules. And I love these books because they have beautiful pictures and lots of great information. So that is kind of what we are going to be doing to wrap up our year with the Chemistry in the Kitchen course. Like I said, it will take us more than the 180 days. We'll go just a little bit further. So the other course that's going to take us longer than our 180 days school year is the history course my son is doing. And that is another one we will probably spend an additional 2 weeks on. We might be able to kind of double up on the work on a couple of days as more of his subjects drop off, because that is something that we have always done. As a subject is done, I don't add in a new subject. So when math is done for the year. When grammar is done for the year, grammar is done for the year. And that does give a little more time during the day to where we can give some extra effort towards courses we might be kind of trailing behind in. we weren't behind in history for any bad reasons. It was simply because we got really invested in certain periods of time we were studying. For example, Roman history was something that was really fascinating. And so we spent a lot of extra time on it. Instead of spending, a week or a week and a half, we spent like 3 weeks going through that. We also kind of paused a little bit when we were getting into like the medieval time period and discussing some of what was happening there. There were some books that we didn't want to skip, but they just took longer to read. He's not a super fast reader, so I wanted to give the extra time. But we are fast approaching all of the modern era, so to speak, from Victorian England to the Industrial Revolution to World War I, World War II, and discussion of a lot of things that are happening in different parts of the world that we kind of know about, but maybe we don't have a really deep understanding about. And man, the book list is fantastic. Now, I will tell you that my son is not excited to read these 2 books. I am really excited to read these 2 books. A Visitor's Guide to Jane Austen's England and How to Be a Victorian. All right, I might not assign these for him to read, or I might just have him read a few passages from it, but I think they're really interesting. We'll see what he thinks. And again, there is another book kind of talking about disease and medicines, 10 drugs, how plants, powders, and pills have shaped the history of medicine. I recently watched a video that John Green put out for Crash Course, and it's on the history of TB and how it's treated and why it's still so widespread. And he spent a good portion of that video discussing the history of the disease. And one of the fascinating figures he gave was, it was something about how like tuberculosis had caused more deaths than, he listed a whole series of other things, including like homicide and war and everything in 1 year. And over the course of time, more people are going to die from disease or quote natural causes than they will anything else. And so we can't ignore the impact of disease and plagues and things like that on the course of history. So I'm really glad that there is a book where we're going to talk about that. And then just really quickly, some of the titles and topics for this quarter. We have one called First They Killed My Father, A Daughter of Cambodia Remembers. This will probably be a tough book to read. It's set in 1975. We've got Guts and Glory, World War II. This is, I think, going to be a fairly easy read for him, but about World War II. Hitler's Youth, Growing Up in Hitler's Shadow. So World War II book. We have one called Such a Lovely Little War. This is about the Vietnam War, which again, that's one where I know some basics about it, but I don't know much in-depth information. And then A Time of Fear, America in the Era of the Red Scare and the Cold War. So these are some of the books that will wrap up the history for him. Very interesting topics. The videos have been really interesting. The hands-on projects have been really interesting. Oh man, the biggest challenge with this history course has been trying to not get too far behind because we want to do all of the things. Like you could really easily take this and make it a 2-year world history course if you really wanted to. But we have some other history courses on the agenda for next year. So alas, we need to try to finish up with this course. For the government econ personal finance combo course my daughter's doing from Guest Hollow, she is moving kind of into macroeconomics on that portion of it. So she is reading this book. She's also reading Financial Peace Revisited from Dave Ramsey. She has done a couple of Dave Ramsey personal finance courses, so it's a really great review and a chance for her to get a little more in depth on that. And we have also been using these 2 reference books. So these are listed on the course, like I said, as reference, something nice to have but not required. It's the economics books, Big Ideas Simply Explained, and the How Money Works, the Facts Visually Explained. She reads like 2 pages from one or the other every day and has been slowly working through the entire book. So I felt like that has just been a helpful little tidbit of information for her to get each day. So we've been working through those. On the government front of things, she's finished studying the Senate and just wrapped up studying the Supreme Court. She had some really interesting assignments regarding Supreme Court appointments and Supreme Court decisions. And now we're talking about states and that balance of power between the federal government and the state governments. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I would highly recommend, if you do this course, look at the iCivics activities that are linked on there. So iCivics is a free website. They have so many different activities for these different topics, and every single one has been good. Usually there's anywhere from 3 to 5 recommendations on each week on the this course schedule, and I pick 2, and sometimes it's hard to just pick 2, but I'll pick 2. I'll print off the packets and have her work on those, and then I will grade those for the course. They have been just wonderful tools. And then she's got a few final books on this course. She's reading The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains, The Second Amendment Manifesto, What Every American Should Know About Their Constitutional Right to Own Guns, and Collective Illusions, Conformity, Complicity, and the Science of Why We Make Bad Decisions. So this last one, I think, kind of ties into the logic component of this course that she's been doing. So that is wrapping up government econ, personal finance. She's, I think, got 6 weeks left on this course before she's all done. Just a few final thoughts on what we will be doing in quarter 4. We are going to continue with our group studies, so we will continue working on a Bible study as a family. We finished up Jonah, and that was a really good Bible study from Daily Grace Co. I would highly recommend that one. It was really interesting to dive in line by line into what is a fairly short chapter of the Bible. So that was a great one. We will continue working on our New Testament study of the Gospel of John. That is from Concordia Publishing House, and then working through our German as well. We gave up on our Read Out Loud. I'm sad, but we gave up on that. We also gave up on our Campfire Curriculum Titanic study. I think it was something that I was really wanting the kids to like. Like, I really wanted them to like it. And they're interested in the Titanic. They're the ones who said, well, let's do that one versus the natural medicine one. But it just wasn't engaging them. Like, it's a lot of straight reading. Just reading out loud to them, reading out loud to them, reading out loud to them. And I think they were just kind of bored with that. It just wasn't interactive enough for them. So as much as I really wanted them to like it, they didn't. And since it was just something we were adding in as kind of extra enrichment, I said, you know what, fine. We're just done. We're just done with it. So I have given up on that. I'm sad, but it is what it is. And then, as I mentioned several times already, as we finish up subjects in quarter 4, we are simply done with those subjects. That affords us the opportunity to work a little bit more on some of these courses that we're not behind in, but we're behind in them. But we're behind in them because we chose to be behind in them. But it'll give us the chance to kind of play catch up a little bit. Maybe instead of assigning 1 chapter in a book for a day, we assign 2. Maybe we take a 5-day lesson plan and we condense it down to 3 days, and then that way we can move on to the next block. And that will, help us kind of pick up the pace on some of those subjects as we approach summer. Not that I have a firm deadline on when we need to be done, but my daughter's schedule is going to get very busy. She's working. She's got her big golf tournaments coming up. We are, we're getting ready for that senior year, and there's just a lot going on and a lot to do. My son got a job as a junior counselor at a camp this summer, so he has a training he's going to need to go to for that. He'll be gone for a solid 2 weeks in June while he's working in that role, and then he'd like to attend the same camp. They have a week that's for high schoolers, so he would like to attend that as well. So he could potentially be gone for almost 3 weeks between working that job and then going to that summer camp. And then, things will start ramping up here as we are getting our gardens in and doing all of our outdoor work this summer. So it is going to be a busy 4th quarter. It will be a great 4th quarter. I love a lot of the subjects that the kids will be touching upon in the different courses, and definitely watch over the next couple of weeks for those review videos. I have spent time talking to the kids about their thoughts on the curriculum that we're using, what I've asked for their honest opinion. What have you liked? What have you not liked? What have been your favorite pieces of it? And then I have looked at it from the perspective of the parent and the teacher. What have I thought of it as well? So I can really give you a good review, both from a student perspective and from a teacher's perspective. So I'm really looking forward to sharing those videos with you guys for the next couple weeks. Every video that I mentioned in today's video, anything that I think might be helpful, I will link down below for you in the description box. So be sure to check those out and reach out if you would like any of the free documents that I have been putting out there, whether that is the transcript workbook, the high school planning pages, the how to write a research paper. All you have to do is shoot me an email and I'm happy to share those. Thank you so much for joining me today, everybody. Happy homeschooling. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.